Hello and welcome to the FatBoss Guide to Immerseus 10-man heroic in the Siege of Orgrimmar.
Hello, and this is obviously your first heroic encounter that you'll see in this instance. And it's pretty good, actually.
Yeah, they haven't changed too much. It is really quite similar to the normal mode. To be honest, if you didn't know it was heroic, you wouldn't really think of it as heroic, because it is pretty easy, to be honest. There's only one or two new mechanics that you need to deal with, but it's still good to know exactly what the fuck's going on so you don't wipe your raid.
Now, if you haven't done this fight on normal and you haven't seen our guide, please do click up on the annotations you see on your screen now. That will take you to our normal mode guide, so you can learn all the normal mode mechanics, because we're not going to go in depth with all these mechanics, because you should know them anyway.
Now for this fight you want to bring 2 tanks, 2 to 3 healers, and to be honest, any sort of DPS. It doesn't really matter what sort of damage you really bring, anyone's good, to be honest.
Now we're going to go through all the changes that are in this encounter on heroic phase by phase, so you know how to counter each phase. Now phase 1 still has the corrosive blast, which is the tank cone thing, taunt on 1 stack, simple as that. Seeping Shard still spawns, which is like the blue swirly things on the ground that will explode and knock you up in the air. They do a lot more damage now, so do not stand in them. The swirl is also still in the encounter, but it does do far more damage, and getting hit by it is kind of bad, especially when other abilities come in at the same time. You might be able to get globalled if you're not using your cooldown. So one thing to note about the swirl, when it does come in, it will always move clockwise. It will never go counterclockwise. So when it does come in, you need to see which direction the boss is facing, because he will just do it in one random area of the room, and then you need to move either in the opposite direction or run all the way around so you don't get hit by it using movement speed increases and stuff like that. It's not worth getting hit by it, because yeah, it is kind of dangerous.
The boss still has Shard Bolt, which is the pools underneath your feet. You do need to move from them. They do a lot more damage than they do on normal. Everything does more damage. This boss is dealing more damage. It's a heroic boss, so do make sure that you do move from them. But the one change in this phase is Swelling Corruption. Now this is a buff that the boss has, that each time you hit him with a single target spell, he'll put a debuff on you. And this does it does ticking damage, but when the stacks start getting higher and higher, the damage doesn't go in a linear sort of fashion. It does start hurting a lot.
One thing to note is that this stack can also be dispelled, which is kind of useful in some situations, but generally the DPS should never go above 5 anyway.
So once you have hit 5 stacks, you should stop. And to be honest, you do have other things to deal with while you wait for your stack to drop. It only does take 6 seconds, because every time that you hit him, an ad will spawn.
Now these ads are really sporadic and sort of spawn all over the place, and it's really difficult for tanks to pick them up. And really, if you aren't tanking the boss and you're not due to taunt soon because the other tank's just been hit by the corrosive blast, you should try and pick up these ads as much as you possibly can. However, as much as DPS just want to tunnel vision the boss, in this encounter the worst thing you can do is have too many ads. So literally, even if you only see 1 ad, you should always switch to it as a DPS. If there's no ads in sight and there's no ads at all on the board, immediately switch back to the boss. These ads don't do anything. All they'll do is just melee hit. But if you become overrun with them, you'll wipe.
An interesting thing as well, that you can AoE down these ads and still be AoEing onto the boss, because it's only single target spells that make you get stacks and of course have ads as well. So you feel free to go crazy AoE on these ads as well, if there are quite a few up.
Because it will also damage the boss.
Yeah.
Now because the boss has so much more health in this phase as well, you can end up running out of room in one section of the room because of all the Shard Bolt pools that are spawning. So really, during the earlier phases where the boss's health is at its maximum, you want to kind of look at moving around so you use 2 sections rather than just 1 section. And this means the tanks need to be kind of clever with the way they're positioning, because they also need to move from the pools, and it can be very difficult for healers to have range on everyone and the tanks. So you want to designate your healers so only 1 healer is focusing on the tanks, where you have 2 healers or 1 healer focusing on the rest of the raid. This only really applies before you have your first phase 2, but providing you kill a lot of ads in the next phase 2 and the boss has lower health, you'll be absolutely fine just keeping on 1 section, because the phases will start clearing up all the pools quicker and quicker, giving you far more room.
So that's it for phase 1, so it's only got that 1 new mechanic, and we're going to be moving into phase 2. Now, the ads that the boss spawns, all those puddles, they act the exact same way. So you want to kill the Shard puddles, which are the black ones, and of course you want to be near them so you get the buff that increases the amount of damage you do to the other black ones, so you want to kill as many as you can. And for the healers, you want to heal the contaminated puddles and do the exact same thing. Be close to them so you can get the buff. Now, the only change in this phase is that if an ad reaches the middle pool, it will actually increase the size of this middle pool.
This is like a new pool that's been introduced.
The thing is, this pool does do damage, so if a lot of ads get through, the pool's going to like fill up a larger size of the room. And the way that the pool's damage works is that you'll take a low amount of ticking damage initially, and then the ticking damage gets higher and higher. However, every time that you get damaged by this pool, it does shrink in size. To be honest, we didn't even really notice that this mechanic even was there.
Yeah, I mean, that's how the mechanic works, but really you don't... I mean, we felt like we didn't need to rotate players in and out just to keep the pool size slow, because eventually, if no one goes in it at all, it would just cover the whole room, because all the ads are going in it and no one else is. So I don't know if you maybe want to, when the phase starts, just have like healers going in and out of it, because healers want to be sort of max range away from their ads anyway, unless they can like instantly explode them. But yeah, we didn't really feel this pool was like an issue at all.
No,
it was just maybe
really.
a little bit more to heal.
Yeah.
But yeah, it didn't really seem problematic, and it seems to shrink in size very, very quickly. So even though it's kind of important that you need to know about this pool, it doesn't really become an issue.
Yeah, we're kind of telling you just in case, oh, Alex, why is like in phase 2 the pool covering the whole room? Yeah, because you fucked up. So yeah, it does like make it so that if you fuck up one ad and the pool size does increase, other ads of course are going to reach it quicker because the pool is now bigger. So you do need to be somewhat careful of that, maybe, but it really is kind of negligible, this mechanic anyway.
And the only other real significant difference that you'll notice is that when the ads do actually reach the middle of the room and you start getting all the explosion damage coming in, it's far more than what it was on normal. And really you want to kind of look at saving your healing cooldowns to this point. You don't actually need to use them if you top people up nice and quickly with like single target heals and stuff like that, but the healing cooldowns will just make it far easier. So really the only real issue you'll have with this encounter is just the very, very start. As soon as the fight gets rolling and you actually pass the first phase 1 and phase 2 and the boss has less health, the first phase lasts so short that you don't really have to worry about positioning, or even the ads for that matter. It doesn't become too problematic. It's just important that DPS are always on those ads and never just like tunnel visioning the boss. So that's more or less it, guys. If this guide did help out, then please do drop us a like, it helps us out significantly, and make sure you comment, rate and subscribe.
And if you'd like to see any of our other 10-man heroic Siege of Orgrimmar guides here by FatBoss, then please do click up on the links you see on your screen now, and that will take you straight to those videos.
Thanks for watching.
Oh, thank you, love.